TW, the Wild.
Wild and Exotic Adventures of a...
I'm trying to get an acronym. Write down TW. TW, write it so I can see it. Let me write it. Sorry, podcast.
I'm not sure that that's the best title for all this.
Well, we're married to that now. I fucking announce it every time,
yeah.
so. We're back for another Wild and Exotic Adventures of a WASP with Don Anderson. So, Don, we're going to start with a story about skiing, or about something that rhymes with skiing at Hunt Hollow.
Right. Funny story. We had skied, gone on vacation every year to all over New England and go for ski weeks. And by the way, this is just an aside. I ran across this thing the other day on my desk. We got to be talking here about the middle to early 60s. And we'd go on ski weeks, and for the ski week, you get a 7-day ski week from Saturday until the following Saturday, and that would include lift tickets and breakfast and dinner and whatever. So the second year we did that, we went up in New England to North Conway, to a place called the New England Inn. There, we got all-day lift tickets. We skied with an instructor in the mornings. We got breakfast and we got dinner, and we got a cocktail party the night we arrived. The cost was $73 per person per week. Unbelievable. I've still got the brochure in there.
It's in New Hampshire. That's Waterville Valley or something? Or
no, it was North Conway, and
okay.
We skied at 2 or 3 places up there. But anyhow, there's others. Then we finally decided that instead of going on ski weeks, we would join the local ski club, which was called Hunt Hollow. Mm-hmm. And it cost us about as much as a ski week, so then we'd be able to ski every weekend. Well, Hunt Hollow was then a pretty much exclusive place. I've talked before about the Valley Club. Mm-hmm. Well, in the winter, those same group of people skied at Hunt Hollow. So I thought I'd kind of made it. I joined down there. All the high mucky mucks were there. So the first weekend we're there, I go down, we went down and skied all morning.
You and Mom, or was Krista there?
Chris, I think you were there. I don't remember that. But anyhow, at one point, I had to go in and relieve myself. And at that point, there were 3 urinals separated by little panels. So it was open in the middle, so I went in there. I recognized the guy on my right as being the president of the biggest bank in Rochester. And on the other side was a lawyer from one of the most prominent law firms in town. I sort of knew who they were, but they were pretty high money. So they went and said, well, you're a new member. We shook hands or everything. Yeah, I just joined today. Well, we're certainly glad to have you at the club, and I'm sure you're going to enjoy it here. But in the meantime, I zip my pants down, and I'm reaching in there trying to get a hold of my things so I could take a pee. I cannot get at it. I'm going over here, I'm going over there, and pretty soon they're kind of looking at me, and I'm kind of squirming around. I could not find my... Well, finally I said, I made some excuse, and I said, well, I think I'm going to have to use the commode here across the way. I guess I'm going to do that instead of peeing here. So they kind of, as I walked away, they kind of looked at each other like, who's this goonball? So I went into the stall, and it turned out it was a cold day that day, and I'd put on 2 pair of long underwear, and the second pair I'd put on backwards. so there's no way I could get on my flat. So that was my introduction to the upper crust of Rochester.
So you were in those days, and these days to a certain degree too, the underwear would have openings in them, rather than kind of pulling down the underwear. You were kind of trying to reach through the opening and finding no opening there.
But there was no opening. Oh. So there it was, pretty much embarrassed.
What was, there was 2 ski clubs, there were Hunt Hollow and
Ski Valley.
Ski Valley. What was the difference, and why did you choose Hunt Hollow over Ski Valley?
Well, we went to Hunt Hollow. We had good friends who skied there, and they had us down there as guests 2 or 3 times, and I thought Hunt Hollow was just the best place of all. Ski Valley was nice. The hill was not as good, I didn't think. So when it came down to making a decision, there was no question. we went to Hun Hollow. Smartest thing I ever did. Because from then on, our whole family looked forward to winter. And we had such good times down there that till to this day, my daughter calls me the first day it snows and says there's snow on the ground, and that's the way it was for years when you went skiing at Hun Hollow.
When the first day of snow is the first day you thought about going skiing.
Exactly.
Now, out west, you've been skiing out there too, and I'm sure there's a funnier story or two about out west.
Right.
Aspen.
Oh, yeah. Aspen, yeah.
Sorry, I'm trying to transition here.
Yeah.
We talked about this before we started, by the way.
We went to, we had some, actually it was my boss, who bought a condo in Aspen. And one year he invited Pat and I to go out there for, I don't know, a long weekend or something to join him for skiing. So on the plane, on the way out there, we ran into a couple that we knew from Rochester, or from the tennis club, actually. And so we had a good time. We said, we got to get together some night. We're out there and have dinner and whatever. So we went there, we skied. And actually, we did get together with them one night. We went out to a nice restaurant. And that year, everybody was wearing T-shirts that said, "How's your Aspen?" And we thought that was funny. We joked about that. Ha, ha, ha. Well, then we finished that. We came back, and the winter ended, and finally got to be summer, and we went back to the tennis club. Now, I should mention this woman in this couple was a very refined lady, very refined, and she came from a rather aristocratic background. But the first time I saw her down there, she was with a bunch of her friends. So I went up and I whispered in her ear, "How's your Aspen?" She was absolutely mortified. She had no recollection about those T-shirts out there.
Did you just back away quietly?
Well, I backed away, and then finally
to...
I said, "Remember the T-shirts out there?" "Oh, yeah, okay, now I..." But it was hilarious. It was hilarious.
All right, well, another excursions. We're going down to Florida. We went down, you went down, Mom and you and I would often meet you there in Tampa.
Right.
To meet Krista and John and the family that lived down there. They lived down there.
Right.
And I think there was a funny excursion when you were driving down there one
right.
Christmas. I think.
It's a long story. I'm going to try to make it short here, not bore you too much. But anyhow, we would make it to Florida in 2 days from here. We drove 12 hours the first day and then 10 hours. So we had to stay in a motel one night. So when I was making plans for this, somebody told me about a website that you go in and you pick the city you want to stay in and you put a price in for a motel. And if they can meet that price, you're obligated to take it. If they can't, they'll give you another one for whatever. So I put in just south of Charlotte, $25. Lo and behold, this motel comes back and says, "We have a room for $25. So I'm thinking, Jesus, this can't be very good. But we'll try it. And I said to Pat, if we get there and it's lousy, we'll go someplace else. So at that point, I had one of these Thule racks on the top of the car, to carry skis in it. And we were going down there for the kids' Christmas, so we packed all the Christmas gifts up in the Thule rack. We take off for the south. We get about halfway down, and I'm thinking to myself, where the hell are the keys to that Thule rack? It's locked, but I don't think I have the keys. Well, lo and behold, I could not find the keys. So we arrive at this motel. It's bad, but it's not too bad. And we finally said, okay, we can finally live there.
Overnight.
Overnight.
No
One
big
night,
deal.
yeah. So in the meantime, I got this problem not being able to get the Thule rack open. So we get in the motel room like at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, and I call the locksmith that I found in the Yellow Pages. And he said, yeah, I can probably get those locks open. He said, where are you located? I'll come there. I said, no, you don't have to come there. I'll drive over to your place. So as it turned out, we did that. He was, maybe 10 miles from the motel.
Mm-hmm.
So I went there, and he opened all the locks. And we went back, and because now the thing was open, we downloaded all the Christmas gifts, took them into the room. whatever. But I should mention that this was right behind a McDonald's, and there was a big dumpster right next to the car.
Yep.
All right, next morning, we go to Palm Harbor.
Yeah.
And that day you were supposed to arrive about late in the afternoon, maybe 4 or 5 o'clock. So I said, I'll drive down to the airport and I'll pick up Steve. So everybody thought that was a good idea, so I did that. And I got there a little bit early, and there was a kind of a pull-off where there was a post office there, so I pulled off. It was right on the edge of kind of a marsh. So I waited maybe a half hour, and finally it was time for you to come in. I start the car, and I try to drive onto the road, and the power steering is gone. I'm hugging and tugging, and I mean, it was like Christmas, 2 days before Christmas, the traffic was horrible. Mm-hmm. So I finally managed to get this car up to the gate where you were arriving. And I got in line, I hustled and finally got in there. And you came out, luckily. Mm-hmm. We loaded you up, and I said, Steve, you got to help me with this. You know, so you would kind of push on the wheel, I would push on the wheel.
I think maybe I drove then, and I remember it being really...
maybe you did.
And you were doing the same thing, but it was really tough. It was
Yeah.
There was no power steering. Normal cars, these days, all have power steering. Before power steering, you had to really muscle the wheel.
Yeah, well, this had power steering, but it wasn't working.
Yeah.
So we go, and I said, I got to find a place where they can look at this. Well, we finally got almost up to our daughter's place in Palm Harbor before there was a garage where we pulled off. So we went up there, and I went in and talked to the guy. I told him what the problem. He said, yeah, we can fix that. But the mechanic he's already gone home, so you'll have to work on it tomorrow morning. So we called John, my son-in-law. He came down. We loaded all of our luggage into his car, including the Christmas gifts, and went back. Then the next morning, he drove me down there, and the mechanic says, I figured out the problem. I said, what's good? He says, come here. So he takes me over to the car, opens up the hood, looks down, and what's in there is a huge rat. Honest to God, the thing was about 12 inches long. And he said, that rat crawled in there. He said, I think you brought that all the way from Pittsburgh. I said, no, we had no rats in Pittsburgh. So it had to be either at that motel where we stayed overnight, the rat crawled in there, or when I waited at the post office there, he crawled in there.
Or at the airport, where you waited at the airport, yeah.
No, when I was waiting for you at the airport. So he pulls this thing out, and by that time the battery was shot.
We should say the rat was dead.
The rat was dead.
The rat was dead by this point,
Yeah.
yes.
So in the process, because the belt had come off, it came off the air conditioner, the power steering, and the generator. So the mechanic says, I paid him whatever it was. He said, you got to get that battery recharged. He said, you'll have to get one of these, what they call a trickle charger, and put that on there overnight, and that'll bring the battery up, and you'll be all set. I said, okay. So I take off. I drive up about 20 miles to the local Walmart. I start to get out of the car, and I think, wait a minute. I can't leave this car running in the Walmart parking lot. Well, I go in there so I had to go all the way back down where you were with John, and I think you came with him, drove all the way back up to Walmart, got a trickle charger, put it on, go back, and overnight it happened. But that was like the journey from hell with that damn rat in there and not being able to get to where we wanted to be.
Well,
right.
I guess the most unlucky thing there was the rat, maybe, but
Right.
For us it was difficult. I remember coming out and you telling me about that, and the poor rat. I felt kind of guilty because I think maybe it was just came in because you would have lost the power steering, before that. But
I love to tell that story because you hear that punchline, and I say, "What do you think was in there?" And people don't know. I say, "A rat, a rat, yeah, a rat."
All right, well, we're going to wrap it up now, and we'll be
right.
back in some time for the next episode of, what was it here? It was TWAEAOAW, The Wild and Exotic Adventures of a WASP.